Yet again, the seasons are changing, and it's a beautiful time of the year. But just like the seasons change, so do our living situations. If you are looking to get a mortgage, we know the right people for you.
That's right. And her name is Kirsten Ballew out of Montrose, Colorado, guys. She is experienced in this field, and she will walk you through the step-by-step process that you need to get into your dream home. It can be very difficult and overwhelming, and that's why we've teamed up with the right people that know how to get it done, guys. It's difficult. We've seen the success rates that she's having out there. That's why we're working with her. We put our trust behind Kirsten Ballew. Go ahead and scroll down to the show notes down below. Click on the link, mention Discussion Combustion Podcast, and you will get $500 off your closing costs.
We'll have this discussion.
Discussion? What discussion?
This is a discussion combustion.
Coming to you from Denver, Colorado, this is Discussion Combustion Podcast with your hosts, Kevin Batstone and Arthur Raw.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you get three talkers across a table and do a good old school conversation without telephones, time flies by. And it's always a lot of fun. I mean, that's one of my favorite parts of my week is showing up here, getting to know people in a genuine way, and hearing success stories. And I got to tell you, you're Naya. What was her name? Naya. Mm-hmm. She was extremely professional.
Yes.
And completely crushed that entire interaction. And yeah, so I got to give a shout out to her first.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
awesome.
let's take it back to kind of how you're here. Like, how you found us and how all that was coordinated. I know we talked about that a little bit off mic, but that's kind of a fun story.
Yeah, so a lot of what's happening right now, I'm sitting as a president of a nonprofit, and that was just started. I created a community online, and that community has been so supportive with my for-profit business. And finally, just like you guys, I took that plunge, that risk, and I started this nonprofit. It's a church. And so I'm sitting as the president and the senior reverend. And Yaya happens to be on my board. So I recruited her to be on the board and another person, and then I relocated them in order to get closer to the location where we're going to build a sanctuary.
Wow.
So I have 35 acres of land. It's raw land. We're going to build an eco-village. It's just these huge plans to help change humanity. And part of that requires me stepping into my purpose by actually speaking my truth, right? So kind of everything builds on everything else, all my life experiences. Just the past 5 years have been about me building on my truth and really just getting comfortable in letting people see me. And so she comes on board.
Congratulations on that, though.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's not easy to look yourself in the mirror and admit things, let alone put it out there as well. So kudos on that.
Especially when you are raised with this indoctrination, societal indoctrination, familial, religious, all of those different forms of programs where you can only exist within the parameters of the program or you're going to be exiled. You're going to be ostracized. And being an empath, that's really difficult to feel like someone's going to reject you. That fear of the potentiality, not just the rejection itself, but the fear of the potential. And so it's been this huge journey, and she knows part of my purpose is to be a public speaker. And so we were looking at different ways to kind of get me an agency and all of these different things. And you guys had a guest on that happens to do something along those lines. And she forwarded me a podcast that this guest did with you guys. And I was like, oh my gosh, those guys are amazing. And then a week later, she's like, oh, by the way,
who was it? Do you recall who the guest was?
Gosh, I don't remember anymore. The thing that stood out the most was the two of you, your interactions. I felt authenticity. I felt this alignment. And to be honest, I've been asked by plenty of people, and I've always said no. I don't want to talk and meet people, especially meet people in person, right?
Wow.
There's something about the authenticity of both of you. It's in alignment with my own.
That's terrific.
Yeah, that's a huge compliment.
That really is. I mean, that's powerful right there. That means a lot for sure. I'm happy you're sitting across the table from us now, and it's a pleasure to meet you in person. Like I said, I've been following your work a little bit, and you're doing some great things. So it's fun to share that success energy a little bit and kind of get to know you.
It is. I'm surprised to hear that on Kevin's behalf, though, because sometimes the way he acts around me is a little. I'm joking. We've been at this all day.
Yeah,
no, but that is a huge compliment, and it's interesting because everyone kind of has that sixth sense. I believe in that, where you can tell if someone's being genuine or not. You can tell if you're being watched or not. And there's like all these different things that we can pick up on through intuition. And you can really quickly understand if somebody is being a little, if they have an agenda or if they're being truthful. So yeah, it's a great compliment, and we're sensing the same. Before we even hopped on this conversation with you and started hitting the red button to record, it was already like an impactful conversation. Like we can tell that there's layers to it, and that's what we love doing here is, going beyond the surface. Like let's go core level, and really like understand how to overcome life, because it's a challenge.
Yes. And that's the most powerful thing, that realization that life is not designed to be easy. Life is designed to challenge you beyond what you think you can survive, so that you can enter into a space of thriving.
Yes.
Right? Because a lot of people, they're like, I'm a survivor. I'm not. I'm not a survivor.
You're a thriver.
I'm a thriver.
You're a riser.
By choice. I'm
Yes.
a trailblazer. I am whatever I choose to be in that moment. No one's going to tell me otherwise.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, you got to grab life by the horns and own it, so to speak. I kind of feel the same way. I've told my story of the past on here a few times. It came from anger problems, long line of alcoholism, you name it. A lot of challenges to overcome for sure, but it's I think you mentioned something on your YouTube channel earlier about the mind, being complacent, right? And misery loves company, that type of stuff. I know I say it every week, but people do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure. And I think that's just a natural comfort zone, right? It's easy to complain, but it's more difficult to look at yourself and go, man, I really want to make a change here. I'm not liking what's going on. It's time to do something different, right? I think a lot of folks struggle with that. And so I think both our work, combined, we try to touch on that a lot.
Yeah. So earlier, as I was kind of thinking about certain things, I have these conversations with myself. And earlier it was this realization that your life will only change as much as you're willing to.
Yes.
If you want a new life, you have to change yourself, or else you create the same life that's kept you miserable. And I think what most people don't realize is they've begun to identify as their wound. And when you heal the wound, that's your identity. You cease to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why most people don't want to heal. That's why most people don't want to accept that healing, helping touch from someone else. It's not just shame. It's not just fear of failure. We've all failed at something, right?
Of course.
We know how to fail. We know what to do after we fail. We know how to keep the pieces together. We know how to make it look like we're okay. I think what happened to society is we don't know how to succeed. We're afraid of success.
Why do you think that is? How did we get to that point? Do you think that there's contributing factors like social media? Is it just the society we live in now and the evolution of time? How did we get there?
That was very carefully orchestrated by people who wanted to hoard the control. The more they make it easier for you, the more control they can put on top of you. And it's this thing of we've given up our sovereign right, our sovereign power in exchange for convenience. In exchange for the convenience of being able to go to a grocery store, not have to grow your own food, not have to raise your livestock. What have we done? We've become dependent. Most people will not survive if the supply chain breaks down.
That's true.
They won't.
That's true.
I'm over here with my rifles and my food. I'm just saying. No, I'm joking.
No, I mean, there's a sense of that self-dependence, though, and preparation. It's really important. And I work in the supply chain as well, and I've seen how volatile it can be. And that's actually when I wanted to go purchase a firearm. Was when I was seeing like the warehouse shortages, and I could talk all about that. I won't dive too deep there, but as far as overcoming challenges and really doing something different in your life, I told the story a lot, but I always like to give it to the guests as well, so we're all on the same page. I'm almost 24 months off of opiates, and I completely turned the corner though. Like if someone tried to give me one right now, I would crush it. Like I would just throw it away. Like I don't want it at all. And that took a long time for me to get there. And so to whatever your journey is, whatever the challenge is in front of whoever's listening, you have to commit to this. Like this is a commitment. This is not something that you're just doing for the time being. This is something you do until you die. Like it's all in. And I understand identifying with your issues and kind of how a long time I identified as, well, that substance makes me feel really good, and that's a big part of my life. So when you are trying to make that bigger change and battling with it every day, and I also need to throw this in here, in that situation, if you're trying to get off a substance and you slip, I don't really believe in relapsing. I don't, because you're still making progress, right? So you can't go back to square one. It doesn't exist anymore. Like, you've made progress. Your mind has changed. So that's just a brief cliff note there. But what we also need to prepare ourselves for is that there will be a void in our minds, because we previously identified as whatever that problem or whatever's holding us back is. And once you remove that, then there's a big gap in our brains and thought process that used to be completely centralized and focused on a specific subject, whatever it may be. And now we have to fill that in. So some things that filled in my void are not the healthiest. Like, I know I drink too much. I wouldn't say I'm full-fledged alcoholic. Like, I don't need alcohol to get through the day. However, I almost drink every night. So I know that that's one of the issues. But then I've also filled it in with, like, walking and, like, vacuuming is, like, a thing I really love, is being clean. And so I kind of just wanted to touch on that a little bit, because what you're saying is so true, how people identify and then hold on to the wrong things. And in my personal experience, some of the things that helped me get out of those thought patterns was to recognize the void, and then also make sure I know it's a commitment that goes forever, and being okay if I mess up from time to time. Like, it's okay if we slip up. You know, you just got to keep going forward.
What if that's not a slip up, though? What if that's you sampling your old life just to remind you that you're not there anymore? Right?
I could see that too.
Yeah, I have very specific beliefs about addiction struggles, how it affects the person, the stigmatization of people who struggle with different addictions. These are people who don't need to identify as a recovering this, recovering that. These are just people who have moved forward, and continuing to put that chapter in front of them is reminding them. It's like inviting you to return back there. So the question is, what is it that you think of at night that needs you to kind of dull the hurt?
What do I think of at night? I will generally, and I'm in a fortunate position with my mentality. I will admit that I've been focusing on positive affirmations for over 15 years, and I'm very cognizant of my thought processes. If something keeps me up at night, it's more like what I'm really trying to make happen tomorrow, or what really happened today. I do have dreams occasionally, though, with opiates. Sometimes I take them in dreams, and I don't like those dreams. A lot of times I throw them away in dreams. But there is still a battle, and I'm willing to face that until the end. You know, it's one of those things.
You got to put your armor on and go to war every day, right?
Yeah.
You know, and keep fighting. For me, it's like every Sunday night, for some reason, I struggle with major insomnia. Sunday nights. There's a couple contributing factors to this. I usually go hard all week, drink too much, stay out too late, and then Sundays I dial it down. You know, it's my day of rest. I got to get back to work Monday. But then the mind just races. You know, Sunday night when I'm laying there, I got to do this tomorrow. I got the podcast this day, that day, the other. And I just lay there all night staring at the ceiling. Can't fall asleep. That's one thing I struggle with a little bit here recently. That's kind of one of the things I'm trying to get control of. And I think just taking care of myself better is probably going to help, you know. But positive affirmations as well. I do the same thing as art. I think that kind of helps me. I'm strong. I'm healthy. I got this. I'm always reminding myself that no matter what happens, I got this.
Do you guys know what I actually do for work? Because I'm not a tarot card reader. My videos are tarot cards.
Break it down for us, because I have a slight idea, but there's nothing like hearing it. Yeah.
So I do quantum Keylontic science. I can repattern morphogenetic templates.
Whoa.
It goes beyond the hokey pokey energy work and goes deep down into the core coding of the individual. I can see past the walls that you put up to make sure that none of your hurt spills out. You both have, and this is what I think this is why I resonated with the two of you. I've struggled with control my whole life because I felt like I've had none. That's why I don't drink, because I feel like I can't control it. It alters my consciousness just a bit, and I feel like I'll lose control. Not lose control like wild out, but not be fully in control of my environment.
Gotcha.
I have specific abilities that allow me to do things that most people can't do. And so my fear for so many years, much of my life, is what if I lose control of those abilities? I could really hurt someone, like really seriously hurt someone.
Wow.
Not physically, energetically. And so it's been this issue with control. What I learned is I'm not fighting the fight anymore, because the fight is me. The fight is about going into this space of flowing with my soul, understanding that my soul is in control. Everything I experience is for purpose. There's nothing right, there's nothing wrong, there just is. And it's not this place of ambivalence, it's this place of neutrality so that you can experience.
A lot of strong words that you're using right now.
Yes.
On a collective level. Do you know like kinesiology as well?
Yes.
Do you subscribe to that? Do you think it's a good?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know he's touched on power versus force, which is an epic read.
No, we got it here actually.
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and.
This is definitely.
Have you read this?
This book changed my life. Like this book is kind of my Bible, and it's all based on kinesiology, and even just touching this book will give energy to you in a very positive way.
Do you believe in energy?
100%.
I do too. Yeah, I believe in energy. I believe we're all energy beings here. You know. And all of our energies can, right now, our three energies are collaborating in this room, bouncing off of each other, right?
But really interesting when you broke down what you actually do, because I didn't know a single word. I haven't heard any of those words.
It's esoteric sciences.
Okay.
It's something so old. Think of like Kemet. Think of ancient Egypt. Think of Tesla. Think of all these different things that science can't quite explain. It's about really tapping into your neurodivergency. My brain does not function like other people's brains. I don't perceive things the way other people perceive things. And science will tell you that's pathology. I've been told I have ADHD, that I have dyslexia. I won't disagree, but I don't see them as pathology. My ADHD helps me to hyperfixate on multiple things at one time if I choose to. If I'm not interested, good luck. I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah.
My brain's off somewhere else. I'm not listening, nothing. The dyslexia helps me to see things from a different angle. I can see things in a 3D way versus just the 2D, which most people will use. What you say versus what I feel. That's not how I see things. What you say versus how I feel versus what your energy tells me versus how my soul receives it. And then that tells me exactly how I need to react. So it's so many layers. We had talked earlier about how layers to people like an onion. The beauty of an onion's layers is the translucency. It only appears to be solid because of the depth of layers. So we only appear to be solid because of the depth of layers of the different lives we've lived within one lifetime, multiple lifetimes, the different personalities that come forward depending on the environment you're in, just so many different factors. And my ADHD helps me to really zone in on all of that all at the same time.
So you're basically taking a lot of these, diagnoses, if you will, and kind of reflecting back on what you said earlier, people that say I'm a recovered alcoholic, I'm a whatever, taking those labels and turning into, well, that's actually a part of me and I own it and I use it this way.
Yes.
Right. So instead of identifying as one thing, I have this. No, I get to use this.
Yes.
It's not something you have, it's something you get to use.
Yes,
that's tremendous.
Exactly. And it's this thing of not believing that I'm broken and therefore I'm not. Knowing that there's space for me to grow, to expand, and that any one perception or expectation of me is inaccurate because that's only one fractal of me. And people don't always have the capacity to see all of you. They don't need to for you to be valid. They don't. You don't need their validation. It helps when people validate you, but you don't need it.
And now we live in a time where I feel like people rely on validation, hence social media, sharing pictures of their food with whoever. Like, oh, look, you're doing good. They need that validation. And we don't have the art of self-reliance like you were talking about earlier. We're so dependent on grocery stores. We're so dependent on whatever the case may be. It's right there at our fingertips. We've kind of lost touch with that primal, self.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're returning back to. This whole process that the world is in. We're returning back to a primal state, which is not a negative state. It's just a state of purity. In that primal state, all of the other nonsensical needs that aren't actually needs, those go away. Those go away. If something happens, society collapses, what happens to everyone? Are they worried about social media, Wi-Fi, all of that? No, they're worried about food, water, and safety. That's all they're worried about. And that's what the reset is. If we can reset our consciousness and our perception of the world and our interactions, we don't need an actual external reset. We decide how that goes. I fully believe that. We decide how that goes. And that's why they keep releasing stories about division and hatred and violence and war and all. I mean, all those things exist, but the fact that they keep putting it in our faces.
It's designed to keep,
Yes.
fear. I mean, obviously, false evidence appearing real, that's what they say fear stands for. But in the scheme of things, these things are happening. I do agree with you. And the media has such a control. They really do. They pick and choose what we hear, right? And people believe it. And then there's science to back, so-and-so, this is a peer-reviewed thing. I talked about this a few weeks ago. And everyone just subscribes to it. It's got to be true. It's got to be true. You guys aren't scared? What do you mean you're not scared? Didn't you see the news? You know how many people come at me like that?
Yeah,
and it's
me too.
like, I saw it, but I'm not gonna live in fear.
Yeah, I honestly trust my intuition more than I trust anything coming from the media, and it's some real this is real shit, because within society, and I'm gonna pinpoint one thing that I know I use frequently, which is alcohol, and how I feel about that. It has been socially accepted for centuries, for thousands of years. It is currently it's the cheapest drug I could ever find. It is the most available. It's on every single corner, and it is a piece of it's almost like population control, because if people are buzzed up, drunked up, then they don't have the capability to take care of themselves or even think and process life in a way where it's like, my life could be better, so I know I could fall victim to that as well. I feel like I'm walking a fine line, but I'm not fully fallen on that perspective. And alcohol affects more families and kills so many people, and then they want to try to, and I'll get a little political on here. That's okay. I've said this stuff before, but then they want to try to have gun control. So they want to normalize something that holds the people down, but while also trying to take away something that potentially protects a person who is not inebriated. And that is control. And they do want division. They want people to disagree. There's even proxy warfare where, Vietnam before the United States entered, and all these different wars where it's these major powers are feeding into this war machine, and they're not actually having troops on the ground, but we send ammunition. America has a proxy war right now with Russia through Ukraine,
right? And
so that's a disturbance, and they want there to be tension, because once people unite and realize I'm no longer drunk, I can think and process, and even though we disagree, I love having a different opinion than somebody and being able to sit down and talk about it, because once you do that live action, you realize that you're actually very similar, and it's okay for people to disagree. So that's a whole rabbit hole that we could totally really go deep in, but there's so many layers to what you're bringing to the table right now with this conversation.
Yeah, it's a lot of this need for us to come together and really have these conversations, true conversations. Con means with, right? It's not this thing where only one person speaks. We have to have this space that's sacred enough to be able to be a space of unified diversity or diverse unity. We should not agree. We shouldn't, but we should be peaceful in our disagreement. We should be respectful in how we receive other people's different viewpoints. And I think that's what a lot of what society has lost. How much do you really truly believe what you believe if you need someone to believe it with you?
It's true. Yeah, it goes back to the misery loves company thing. You seeing this? You believe what I'm believing? It's there's so mmany analogies we could use. It's like a sports team, right? I'm wearing a Patriots jersey, and we can all give each other a hard time if you don't root for the same teams. But we have. It's a wedge has been driven into the population significantly, and it's getting deeper and deeper, and the division's getting more and more massive. And the things that people focus their time and energy on don't really matter at the end of the day. And people are losing family members, friends over disagreeing on simple stuff. Stuff we're talking about right now has driven friendships away. It's unreal.
Yeah, definitely. In the past 2 years, we've seen this accelerate. This is a process of destabilizing the family unit, not just the nucleus, but also the extended family. And they've successfully done that because we've allowed them to. The beautiful thing about sovereignty is no one can tell you what to do. The not so beautiful thing about sovereignty is you have the power to give away your power.
That's intense.
So the beautiful thing about sovereignty is you have the power to do what you want to do, and the bad thing was
you can give it away.
You have the power to give it away.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a freedom. You have the freedom to come or go, so to speak.
Yes.
You're in the driver's seat.
Yes.
You control what you want to do, but it can go away at any moment.
Yes, and the thing is, people don't want to take accountability for their decisions. So sometimes I'll have people come to me like, Emmie, what should I do? What should I do? And I'm like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Well, I want to know what you want me to do. It's like, it's your life.
That's up to them.
You know?
You just got to remind them it's their choice.
Right. And what I sometimes will end up telling a person is that you already know what you want to do. You want me to repeat it without you telling me first. So that way, if what you want fails, you can say it's my fault.
Getting that validation a little bit and kind of bringing you down with them. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, so yeah, let's the challenge of the week is coming out early this week. Usually this is like an end of the episode thing, but it just hit me. So like, hold yourself accountable and be neutral about it too. Like, cause there's something there. Okay, there are few feelings that are as empowering as accepting your own faults, and also growing from that acceptance. And the only way you're going to do that is if you're willing to look into your eyes and tell yourself, like, I'm not being the best person in this area. You know, I can improve, you know, and that should be a challenge because I have many areas where I need to improve on right now.
Of course.
You know, we've been having too much fun or whatever it is. You know, I won't go into too much details there, but, you know, it's time to tone it down, and it's important for all of us to recognize and acknowledge where our faults are. You know, if you're not taking accountability for your actions and you're constantly pushing it off and you're not responsible for any of your downfalls, then you're extremely ignorant and you're not going to make any progress in life. Like, that's how I feel. Like, you're going to be stuck in one place if you're not willing to actually do the legwork and face the cold, hard facts of life. Like, I'll get a little frustrated.
That's not accountability, though.
In what way?
That is an intellectualized form of self-attack. You're destroying yourself with that logic. You're not recognizing the beauty and the grace with which you're developing yourself. So accountability to me is not, you better own what you did. Accountability to me is, you know what, I had this opportunity to learn. I was presented with two options and I chose this option and it led to this. I didn't like that very much. So I think next time I'm going to choose this option instead. You know, really just allowing yourself to have that space to learn and grow in a neutral way, if not positive. I mean, we can't always be positive about things, but you don't have to be negative where it's like you're messing up and all of this stuff's going wrong because you're still doing the same things. And it's like, no, that's not accountability. Accountability is, you know what? I'm not where I want to be right now. What exactly am I doing right now? And why am I doing it? Like, for me, I know I'm supposed to do public speaking. I know I can. I don't really want to. Why? Because I'm still afraid of people seeing the reality of my authenticity. Why am I afraid? Well, because once people see that, then I can't play small anymore. Why do I want to play small? Well, because that goes back to childhood programs where, you know, the shadow self, I was too hard to handle. I was too outspoken, too precocious. Like, you can't control a child that's so hyper aware and hyper mature. And so it became this thing of being ashamed of who I am because the adults in my environment, who really, they're just adults. We can't hold them to that unfair standard, right? They don't know any better, but I needed better. And so that's the whole cycle that's going around. And now I'm identifying it. And I can be like, if I know I deserve better, I can provide better for me. I don't have to continue with that.
But don't you need to acknowledge in the first place where you are falling short?
Yes, but if you're acknowledging it from a place of anger and disappointment with the self, that's not acknowledgement. That's an intellectualized, highly logical self-abnegation.
But if it's just like, because the subconscious works, and then it speaks to the conscious, and whatever you're feeding it is like an echo chamber.
Hence affirmations, right?
And you're unaware of this happening, then is it truly like an intellectual, like, because it's not a self-attack. Like, you're not even aware that you're doing this to yourself.
An attack is an attack. If you're not aware, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's still an attack, is it not? If I were to slap you before you knew I was going to slap you, is that an attack? You weren't aware.
That's a good analogy. So when I wake up like hungover on a Sunday and I'm like, idiot, I shouldn't have done. I was an idiot last night. That's an attack on myself.
Yeah. We've become so accustomed to negating our own value, because everywhere around you tells you that's what you're supposed to do, that it's the norm. And when we enter into this space of peacefulness and self-love, we're taught that it has to be like, you have to go to the spa, you have to pamper yourself, you have to be like goddess queen. It's like, no. Sometimes I'll be like, can I say bad words? Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
They're like, bitch, what's up? Why are we doing this? Bitch, stop. Whereas before, I used to be like, you effing, like just really, really giving myself the worst treatment possible.
Yeah.
In a way that I would never even speak to anyone else.
Wow.
And now it's like really just shifting it 1 degree at a time. I can still have that conversation and use those words, but use it in a way where there's no more anger and rage filling every letter of every word, right? And that's what the shift is, because you're still upset with something that you feel you're not doing enough of. I feel you're doing everything you need to do. You can't do more than what you're ready to do or what you're at the maturity level to achieve. You can't.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, right?
I guess if I'm being honest, I probably am a little upset because when you lose, I wouldn't say lose. Okay, I'm going to start using my words I'm going to start picking and choosing.
She's going to pick you apart.
No, I'm going to pick and choose my words.
Talk normal.
No, absolutely not. You are a psychoanalyst, and it's good stuff. So I'm a little jaded, I spent a lot of my life making bad decisions, being extremely unorganized, lying, being selfish, in toxic relationships. And part of me wants to like show my old self up. And so I sense what you're talking about, but it's not holding me back. Like, it's like feeding my fire right now because I can see my progress, and I don't regret anything, but part of living is like understanding that you can't change the past. You can only learn from it.
It's true.
But there is parts of me where I'm like, I got this ferocity within me right now because like it's time is going by quicker than we ever thought, especially when we're in our 20s going through life, and as we get older. And so I can agree with you that there is some things that I'm like, I'm kind of pissed off in a sense, and I don't want to attack life, but in a positive way, and to do the right things, like having you on, creating this platform, having great experiences with Kevin. So it's interesting how you could sense that, but it makes sense at the same time.
You're going to have a massive aha moment in about 3 days.
3 days.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, I think that timeline's going to match up.
I have some ideas.
I think Emmie knows what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm a little intimidated right now, Emmie.
I don't know if you guys know I have precog abilities.
You're coming for me next. I can feel it.
Yes. Say something so I know which direction to go.
I just thinking about everything here and talking about our purpose and everything, I think back to when I was a little kid. And I always wanted to be an entertainer my whole life. I did talent shows. I loved being in front of people. I was the school meteorologist. I always dreamed of being in front of the green screen. I knew early that my purpose was to be in front of people, whether that's speaking, entertaining, playing music, talking, whatever it is. And so that's what really aligns with what we do here. And it brings me great joy and happiness every time I step foot in the studio. With that, right, has come bad decisions as well. A lot of alcohol abuse, anger issues throughout most of my life. I was bullied in high school, and took that out on a lot of people. Art remembers when he first met me, all I wanted to do was fight people like I had something to prove. I always wanted people to just accept me and not demean me. You know what I mean? I always had this ferocity of, I'm just as good as anybody else. I'm not better, but I'm not less. I just always wanted to be included, so to speak. Not so much as a chameleon, because I've always stood my ground on what I believe. I've always been that way. I'm thick-headed. If I believe something, I'll take it to my grave. That's kind of a brief overview of me.
So, where do you want me to start?
Just go for it.
I can handle whatever.
Yeah, just go for it.
Can I just hold your hand?
Yes.
I don't like to touch people, but I feel like you just kind of need to be touched for a moment, Kind of just need to be touched and acknowledge that it's okay if you're better. And it's also okay if you're empty. It's okay just being you. You don't have to be the entertainer. You don't have to be the educator. You don't have to be the voice or the reason or any of that. You were created without anyone else's permission. And that's the thing that I always tell myself when people oppose me, because I've experienced some pretty severe cyberbullying. Whenever people oppose me, I tell them, bitches, I didn't need your permission to exist. My existence was co-signed by Creator. So you can just suck a hairy donkey dong, you know? And it's this thing where you try so hard to be more than what the cycles are that you grew up in. I don't know what those cycles are, but you're not a byproduct of your environment. You're not. You're not at risk of being just that. And I think that's the fear that drives you. That fear should continue to exist because that's your fuel. But here's the thing. If that's all you're going to do is continue to burn the fuel without any purpose, that's a waste. Do you know what your purpose is? I think you're on the path to realize what that purpose actually is. And that purpose is going to be ridiculously profound. You're well on the way there. And what you're going through is a cultivation of your sense of self. You're separating from your identity that was created by your family. And it's not to say that you have a horrible family. It's to say you chose that family intentionally for the experiences they were able to provide you in order to cultivate your perception in this lifetime. And I had a really challenging childhood, and I knew from a very young age that I picked that specific family because one of my siblings, he's going to have a very difficult time, and I'm going to have to be there easily accessible to him. And I know I chose that family because he chose that family, and we were going to be given some very intense life experiences. And it didn't destroy us. What a lot of people think this, oh, I'm breaking down. I don't see it that way anymore. I'm not breaking down, I'm breaking open. The pain is still the same though. And it's about recognizing what the pain is teaching you. Are you learning about yourself, or are you just learning about the pain?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. Something that, you really got to sit with and digest a little bit, And it's good to see different points of view and kind of analyzing it, Yeah.
So at what point, because you're coming in to our studio right now, breaking it down like a pro, all right? No, I got to give some props there. And I'm so curious right now in so many different ways, like about myself even, and also about you for sure. Like when did you know, when was your first experience where you're like, I'm looking at life through different lenses. Most people are looking through these lenses. However, I'm looking through these lenses. Like, how old were you? When did you first experience?
I was born weird. I've never been a normal child. I haven't. People have always asked me, when did you have your awakening? And I was like, awakening? I've been like this my whole life, literally. Super intense or super quiet. There's nothing in between, right? Either I'm fooling around the whole time, or I'm so ridiculously intense and serious that people get uncomfortable, and there's nothing in between. And it became this thing of, I struggled so badly trying to fit in. Trying to be like everyone else, trying to be this normal, right? And then I came to this realization I'm never going to be. And so I just have to be okay with who I am, how I am. And when I began to lose my desire to be accepted, and that was a result of being cyberbullied by grown adults. Okay, adults. I'm talking about forming groups, getting accounts taken down, trying to ruin my business, everything. I finally I was like, you know what? I don't even care. I don't want to be like them. I don't want to be like people who are like that. I see so many people like that, and I don't want to be like that. And now I'm okay not ever being just like everyone else. And when I did that, and I allowed myself to be witnessed, I switched over to YouTube. I don't know, this community just kind of built up around me, and I swear I could do anything. And my,
because you're also authentic.
Yes. This community, they gave me the courage to continue being authentic, because every time I have this moment of like, I will cuss someone out in the comments while I'm live. You want to be disrespectful? If it triggers me just right, I will let you know right then and there and keep going. Right? I was just like, just like that. Okay, you're out, band. And then I'll keep going. And afterwards, the programming will kick in. I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. I shouldn't have done that. I should this and I should that. And they're always so supportive. So it really requires you allowing yourself to see that your environment, the environment you keep, is a mirror of what you have inside you. So the two of you are mirrors of each other. I hear you both saying the same thing. You're both so different, yet pretty much the same. You suffer in the same ways, but hide it differently. But you medicate it in the same ways as well. So it's this thing of really, really, what do you guys want? What do you want from what you're doing together? What type of environment are you cultivating? What type of purpose do you feel you have? And I think your guys' purposes go hand in hand.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things that you're saying are true, but at the same time, and I'm just going to kind of push back on you a little bit, but only because we like being critical. It's still accepting, though. Okay.
No, be critical.
So you know, it's kind of, you can say things in almost in a way where it's kind of overlapping and somewhat vague. And I feel like when things are stated in that type of way, like, it's always easy to interpret it and see how it would apply to an individual. So, like, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of like to mention that because same with like horoscopes and things of that nature. Like, I feel like they're written in a way that is anyone can interpret it and be like, yeah, this is true. This is me, right? So how do you feel about that kind of critique and critic?
I don't see it as a critique at all.
Okay.
I see it as a recognition of where your limitations exist and how they interact with my limitations. I don't need to be specific because I'm not interested in telling you what to believe.
Yeah.
I'm simply sharing my perception and freeing you to do with that as you choose. And that is part of my journey of no longer needing to control my environment.
Yes.
Because I used to do that, where I will tell you specifically, and now I'm just like, that's not love. Yeah. That's not supporting someone. That's another expression of my need to control. And if I'm tired of having a war, I have to truly end that war. I can't allow even the little skirmishes within me where I'm trying to control a situation. I'm trying to this and I'm trying to that and dictate someone else's life. I understand the gravity of my words and how people receive it. And when I am too specific, they will do exactly as I say, and I don't want that.
Yeah, you want people to make their own choices. And I'm just opening that up as like a curiosity. I believe in your flow and what you're talking about. And by golly, she's been spot on, Kev.
I would say so. I think after doing this for a long time now, this is one of the first times we've really had a guest sit across and really psychoanalyze us to this level. Which is that
good?
No, it's fantastic.
Okay. We love it.
We want new experiences, right? I mean, and this is there's a reason you're sitting across this table, right? Like, I mean, I'm a believer in that too. Things, you know, it's not coincidental. You know, going back to the energy and all that kind of stuff. Like, these kind of interactions need to happen, right?
They do.
And obviously, people are going to witness that and probably experience something from it as well, which is great. You know, again, piggybacking off of the purpose here, putting it out there for the people, you know, for to help people. You know, that's truly kind of the mission statement of what we do here, being critical, loving, accepting, including people of all walks of life. I mean, how are we going to grow if we don't have opportunities like this and we just stay in a box?
We grow through friction, through being able to disagree in a peaceable way, you know, being able to see someone else's perception. I absolutely welcome you seeing and sharing what you see when it comes to me, the way I word things. That's how I grow, you know, and you don't even have to preface it with, oh, I'm saying I'm still accepting you. I mean, it's okay. You don't have to. And that's the thing. We need to move away from those types of interactions because I found that when I used to do that, that would actually coddle the person's fear. Oh no, she's rejecting me. Oh, now she's okay. Oh man, I feel rejected. You know, I don't do that anymore. I will say something and I will preface it with, I understand what I'm about to say might upset you. Okay. It's not my intent. And I hope you know where I'm coming from, a space of love and just empowerment. But, and then I will just say it. And I found that people are very receptive to that at this point because they want to hear the truth, not a sugary truth, just the truth.
Yeah, not the sugar-coated scenarios and overly painted pictures. The comfort zone.
Right.
I mean, again, people don't want to hear those kind of things typically. They can be offensive, right? You know, people say, oh, no offense, but, right? And then they come at you with an insult or something like that. I think that's just kind of where the human mind goes in that defense mechanism. Like, you're attacking me right now. When the fact remains is you're actually doing it from a place of love. You actually care about this individual. You're not just trying to demean their day.
Right. And I think that was one of the most empowering things about the work that I do in live streams, is that people have shown me that's why they come. That's why they join me pretty much every day. I live stream every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
You're busy.
And yeah, they come every day. And it's like, I mean, this is what we need. We need you to just speak openly. You know, we get all of that sugary stuff from everywhere else. We come here because you're the way you are. I mean, it's so empowering to not just have a community that accepts you, but really, really embraces you. Because I found there's a nuanced difference between acceptance and embrace, right? There's a very nuanced difference. And once you get to this higher level of understanding your need, you'll begin to realize you don't want acceptance, you want to be embraced.
So acceptance and embrace. So basically, one is just being like settling, like, yeah, this will work. And then embracing is actually taking it in and being like, this is us, owning it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like getting a pair of socks for Christmas as a kid versus getting the toy that you really, really wanted, right? You're thankful for the socks, but I don't really want the socks. Okay, I'll have the socks.
Yeah.
I want socks now, though.
Right?
Yeah.
It's funny how that works. As we've gotten older now, it's like, yeah, I want socks and underwear for Christmas. You know?
Give me undies. No, but it's empowering things. And when you have a different type of mentality and you're aware of it, and you understand when you walk into a room that the dynamic changes with your own energy, there's a point in time where I feel like you need to walk the line of, you know, being humble, right? And being humble about your gifts. And I don't feel any sort of energy off of you where it's like, you know, like I'm better than anybody. I don't sense that. But I'm sure at some point, like, you had to kind of go through that process of seeing, like, you know, this is my purpose, this is who I am, and I know I'm different, but I'm going to be humble about it. Like, did you have to go through that at some point? You was just there.
No, it's this beautiful thing of the way my ego works.
Okay.
The dyslexia kicks in, right? My ego, when it flares, I don't feel big and bad and better than everyone. It makes me feel very, very small, insignificant, and difficult to tolerate. And so whenever my ego flares, I know, okay, I'm approaching that line of exiting out of a space of grace, a space of just knowing that I'm serving my purpose and that's all I'm here to do. I'm not better, I'm not worse. If I have more gifts than someone else, it's to better serve someone else. And so I'm very thankful for my ego. I used to wonder why I was insecure and why, you know, it's not insecurity. I realize I'm not an insecure person. I'm perfectly calibrated to keep me in a space that's appropriate for me always. Regardless of what I achieve, how far I go, how recognized I am, no, I will always exist in the same space that I've always lived in because my ego will keep me there.
I love how solidified you are. You are almost as if you hired the best contractors in the entire world, and the foundation that they built for this house was built out of diamond.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Diamond foundation. But you are also not hoarding this. You're not keeping it to yourself. You're giving it to the world, and you are helping people. And when Kevin and I have accomplished that, because we have, and it's such a, you know, I'm not even saying it to like, I guess I'm trying to find a parallel here because, you know, there are some similarities, and I still have so much work I have to do on myself and on the business, and there's so much to do. But when you look back, and it just makes it a little bit more worth it sometimes. Like when you're like, okay, you know, we helped one person at least, and that makes it worth it. And it kind of keeps you going sometimes. Like, you know, you're like, all right, I have to maintain because people depend on me, sort of thing.
We had a guest on a couple weeks ago, and he had a really good recommendation or, you know, advice for humanity. And I had to apply this to myself because I get so caught up in the hustle and bustle. Day to day, got to be at the podcast, got to do this, got to do networking, got to be on this Instagram Live, blah, 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 blah. Just fast track, right? I lose touch with myself. And he says, you know, every once in a while you got to go up, walk up at the hill and take a look back at yourself. Look down at yourself. What are you doing? And reanalyze what's going on. I got to get better at doing that, you know? And the visit we've had tonight is good too, to kind of break that down a little bit. I know I got some areas I got to improve on. I've been pushing a lot of stuff down, like I told you off mic, and just kind of burying it a little bit. I have to be here. I have to be on the air tonight. That's my focus right now. I'll worry about that another time. And I just keep kicking that can down the hallway.
Can we shift the perception?
Yes.
About what you're burying? You're not burying your trauma and your pain. You're burying seeds for the future. When you're ready, you will address those wounds and you'll heal them because you have the capacity and the desire to. Maybe you're just not ready and you have to be okay with that.
That's an interesting perspective, yeah. I haven't looked at that. I was looking at it as the past, but maybe it is the future. Burying it for the future.
It's cyclical. You have maybe 5 patterns throughout your entire life, and you play out those same patterns with different players through your entire life.
Wow.
So what would be an example of a pattern somebody might have during their life cycle? Because you said about 5 patterns. Like, are there hundreds of patterns?
I mean, like what? 5 primary, and then you have secondary, and then tertiary patterns. But there's probably 5 primary patterns. One pattern will be, recreating the same dynamic you have with your mother, same dynamic you have with your father. You're trying to heal a wound that a child wasn't capable of handling, right? So it's all these things that happen in childhood, and you play it out over and over and over with adults, with other adults. And for some of us, we'll have children. We'll play it out with our children, and we'll begin to see and realize. For example, I have quite a few kids, and with my kids, I've made a decision to not be the type of parent that I had. And then I see myself repeating some of the patterns, very, very mild version of those patterns, but I'm like, yeah, gotcha. That's why. And then so now I'm having conversations with my kids, and I tell them, like, hey, if there's anything I've ever said in the past that still you remember and it hurts you, I want you to know I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. And one of my kids asked me, why do you say that every few months? It's like, well, because you have a long memory. I don't want you to know I'm actually sorry. It's not a one-time thing. Yeah. And so those patterns, they're going to continue, but they're not going to be so destructive for me because I'm addressing it. I'm not fighting it anymore, right? Other patterns like, with friends. I have this pattern that I have with friends. I think it's pretty much done because I'm refusing to repeat the pattern again. I will overgive and I will blind myself to your faults and the ways in which you are misusing our friendship. And then you will toss me aside when you can no longer receive the benefits that you're accustomed to. And then I'll go ahead and I'll believe that everyone does this, and I will shut myself down. And the last time this cycle happened, it was actually fairly recent. And my best friend, I told her, you don't have to text me anymore, because she texts me every morning to remind me to take all my supplements. And I said, you don't have to text me anymore. That's my responsibility. And she's like, I don't want to kick you while you're down. But, and this is how you know she's a real friend. I'm seeing the pattern, is what she told me. I see the pattern. Someone hurts you, and then you go and apply that to everyone else in your life. And you think everyone else is going to do that, and you know that I won't. And it's true. She won't. That's not within her character. The problem isn't other people. The problem is that I seek out these other people who have the capacity to play the role I'm recruiting them to play. I created that dependency with that former friend. I created that. And then she co-created that with me. We both fed into that cycle. So there's no victim there. That's me just repeating cycles. I've done that cycle so many times. And now I'm kind of just like, I can be friends, but I don't have to overgive. Learning the nuances. With every cycle, I learn a richer nuance to it. But it'll continue through the rest of my life. It will.
What will?
That same cycle with friendships, with parenting, with all of that.
And constantly checking yourself.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
Yes. What I like to tell my viewers, when you're in school and you learn content, does a teacher just believe you learn the content, or do you get tested? Right? And is the test to punish you? No. It's to measure your mastery of the content. So it will circle back to see if you've mastered it and you can apply the knowledge you've learned, and then it will cycle out. As long as you don't choose to participate at the depth that you need to participate to bring pain to your life, it's not going to cause you pain. You might be annoyed, inconvenienced, but not pain.
So where do you stand on like positive affirmations? Because that's something I do every day. And just convince myself of positive things. Strong, I'm healthy, I got this. Alcohol-free, whatever it is. Just reiterating to the subconscious mind positive affirmations. What's your stance on that?
You want my honest personal
Yeah, absolutely.
stance? I think it's caca.
Do you?
I do.
Why is that?
Because that's you telling yourself you don't believe that, and now you're trying to convince yourself you believe it.
Do you believe that what you tell your body believes?
Yes.
So wouldn't that be a positive affirmation?
But here's the thing. What you're verbalizing does not match up with the emotion that you're feeling. You're verbalizing that because you feel the polar opposite emotion.
But how about a proper affirmation to where you are saying a short positive phrase, you are visualizing it as if it has already been accomplished, and you're also seating your mind with the feeling of it being accomplished. So that it's like a three-piece. A proper affirmation is the sentence, the visualization, and the emotional input.
So is that emotion authentic, or are you seeding it, as you said?
Well, it would be because it's like, fake it till you make it sort of thing, right?
Right. So why don't you be it until you are it?
Okay.
Kind of similar perspective, I feel like.
It's similar, but at the same time, it's 1 degree difference. And that 1 degree is what creates the manifestation potentiality. I don't do affirmations and I don't meditate because those are not the ways in which my mind functions. The affirmations, for me, that's just a reminder of what I don't believe in myself. And I'm aware of that. I used to do affirmations, and I know I'm so highly cognitive of my internal state. I didn't believe it. I was trying to convince myself. If you really want to reprogram your subconscious, record yourself saying those affirmations, play it in your earbuds while you're busy. That'll go straight to your subconscious. And because it's the sound of your voice rather than someone else, you're reprogramming your subconscious mind to see you as the authority that you actually are. Self-hypnosis.
So in other words, if I were to record myself repeating an affirmation 10 to 15 times and I looped it, listening to it while I was doing something else,
Yep.
That's more effective than me telling myself that right now.
Yep.
That's interesting.
So then they still work.
In that regard.
Not in that way. Not in the way affirmations are told to you. Affirmations actually come from esoteric teachings. And what they did, someone was very savvy in their approach to spiritual industry. And they went and sold this, but not in the way that it was meant to be taught.
Okay. So for example, I used to smoke cigarettes all the time. And I use affirmations to get myself off of cigarettes. Like saying, I'm smoke free. Cigarettes are disgusting. And picturing myself not smoking cigarettes. And then eventually, after several, like a year of doing this, I feel like affirmations is a long game. I thought cigarettes were absolutely disgusting. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. But for a long time, I really enjoyed them. I wanted them. So maybe, I can disagree a little bit. Like, affirmations have changed my life, but the perspective that you're bringing to this is an area where I haven't necessarily been, like, as far as my thought process on it. So I'm not trying to, not validate what you're saying, but I'm also going to disagree a little bit. And I do feel power of affirmation is correct. And if not everyone's going to be on your level of plane of view.
That's the thing.
And so, I feel like it's still an important tool for people to utilize. And because it's helped me personally. I mean, even just kicking cigarettes, not to mention everything else I've affirmed that's been manifested.
Right. Well, that's just the positive side, right? Too, we could look at negative affirmations, which a lot of folks do, right?
Yeah.
They focus on, I don't look good in this outfit. I drink too much. I talk too much. The insecurities, right? They negatively affirm that to themselves. Do you believe that has the same impact?
Yeah, it does. I mean, if you say things long enough, eventually you adopt it as your truth. That's why I asked, do you want my personal...
Right.
And for me, I think it's caca. For
you.
other people, I mean, if it works for you, by all means, keep doing it, because what works for you might not work for me, might work for me, might not work for you.
True.
Right?
That's true.
But again, my mind functions so different than the average person, and not in a way of I'm superior. I'm just very different, very different. And it's this thing of me recognizing a lot of the things that I was trying to participate in, the spiritual things, it was not working because my brain does not work in that way. I understand that my brain has a capacity to manifest for my life the situations and mindsets that are necessary instantly. All I have to do is give myself permission.
Mm-hmm.
And when I give myself those extra steps, it becomes this thing of like, oh no, I'm just convincing myself I can't really do this. I can't really do it.
So you're kind of like, and so I feel like I'm starting to read between the lines a little bit. As you live in 3 to 5 seconds, and
Yes.
you just go for it immediately and act upon your intuitive thought, which is sometimes not the easiest thing to accomplish. And a lot of people fight their intuition and try to, make an excuse to why I shouldn't be doing that, or maybe I can't achieve that. But you just go for it.
Yeah. And what my husband says is, I'm hammy after you give him the energy drink. Have you seen Over the Hedge?
I don't think so.
No,
You need to see Over the Hedge. Look up hammy energy drink.
Hammy?
Yeah.
Like
He's just like,
Hammy?
I think that's how you spell his name.
Hammy energy drink.
Yeah. Over the Hedge, hammy energy drink.
Okay.
It's this thing of like, once I know what I need to do, I'm doing it. You're not stopping me, and it's going to be done. And that's it. That's just it.
I like that.
So part of my history, which I'm sure you guys don't know, at one point, I used to live in California, and I was instructed by Soul that it was time to leave California. We ended up leaving. We sold our house, and it's just been one big cluster fluff of an adventure since. Okay, that was in 2014. Around 2016, my soul had other plans for me. And so I ended up becoming homeless with my family. We were stranded in a parking lot in our RV for about 5.5 months.
Jeez.
And I did not have a business. I don't have much college education. I'm not certified in anything. And in that parking lot with a $30 prepaid Cricket cell phone, I launched my company. Within that year, that was October. Within that year, by the time January came, because I thought this was a hobby, right? I thought this was just a hobby. I have a 6-figure LLC.
That's amazing.
With no business, no training, no nothing. And so when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, and you're not going to stop me. And the more you try and stop me, the more I'm going to do it with a smile. And that's just how my brain functions. But I know not everyone else's brain functions that way.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like I have to be careful how I phrase things. It needs to be more generalized, because you just really have no idea the impact you have. As much as you think you know how you impact people, you don't. You don't.
So do you know how much you impact people then, or are you also unaware of your actual impact?
I don't know. I see these very profound comments that my viewers leave. They're not even my viewers. They're like my online family. I had someone telling me, I'm going to cry. Someone was telling me earlier today in the live stream, you guys saw part of it, that I've been there with him in the darkest moments. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
When he felt the most alone, he would watch my live streams, and it would get him through. And then he goes on to, and I just started bawling. And then he goes on to say, like, you're the mother I never had. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like.
It means a lot.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I don't understand what I do that creates that type of reaction. I don't know. I'm just being me.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
It's authenticity. It's the reason you're here now. And we've experienced similar things to that. And it really is, it's not an ego boost. It's more of, it makes me cry every time when someone, thank you for saying this. And I needed to hear that now. It's unreal. And we're just being authentic.
Right.
We don't want to lose touch with that. But, going back to, not to get too far off topic, going back to your successful LLC, congratulations. And the fact that you say, don't tell me I can't do something. I live by that. Yeah. I get more motivated.
Only he says, hold my beer instead.
I do say, hold my beer. You can tell me I can't do something.
Water.
Hold my beer. It's going down. No, I love that. I love that ferocity and that, will to just go after it, own it. Don't ever let someone tell you can't do something. We can do whatever we want.
You know what? I found that when I don't want to listen to the guidance of my soul will bring someone into my life who will tell me exactly what I should not do, because that's the very thing I'm going to do. That's the very thing.
That's tremendous.
I mean, it's so important to be cognizant of what's happening around us. Like, we all know the right thing to do. we all have the capability to differentiate what is positive and negative. I believe that's within all of us. I mean, there are circumstances where, there's billions of synapses happening in the brain. Some brains don't work as well as others. So there are those cases. So it's beautiful conversation. I love everything that we've opened up to and how you've challenged us a little bit, and maybe not challenged, but how you've brought a different lenses to look life through. And it's been eye-opening for sure. So one thing that we always do like to ask every single one of our guests is if you could give humanity a piece of advice so everyone would be better tomorrow, everyone will be better off, what would that piece of advice be?
To return back to a village setting. Because we're interdependent as a village. Everyone has their proper place, their proper role, and we work cohesively. The compete compare program, it has to stop.
The compete program?
Compete and compare program.
Compete and compare, okay.
We have to revert back to a space of co-creation. When we lived in villages, we co-created because our survival depended on each other's co-creating ability, willingness. And we've gone so far away from that it's just this thing of, who can get to the top first. There's space for everyone at the top.
Yeah.
Right.
That's worded well. Yeah, I just got a vision of that for sure. It makes sense. I mean, it kind of encapsulates everything we just touched on. And, I don't know what's going to happen next, but things are looking a little rough out there. We just got to kind of, we got our guns. Let's be self-reliant. We got to take care of ourselves, our family. I think that's what's most important, right? And have a plan. People think I'm paranoid because I'm prepared for some things.
Those are the very people who will be the first to knock on your door.
Of course. That's the cold hard truth right there. When things really hit the fan, not if, when, what's going to happen? You're exactly right.
I think we're going to see the true state of humanity. And I mean that in the most beautiful way possible. I think we're going to see people surprise each other with a return of our humanity. Right now, we're operating based on the way society has programmed us to operate. Mm-hmm. Once society falls apart, we revert right back to where we came from, village settings. I lived in Durango for a period. We were on a farm, and it was this thing of, it was right when COVID hit, we're like, we're leaving Fort Collins. We're going to a farm in Durango, out in the sticks, like we're good,
Beautiful
and
town.
Yeah, it is very
town.
beautiful.
I love Durango.
So we were there for a little bit, and it was this thing of, I wish a mofo would. Everyone here is armed. Everyone here has land. Mm-hmm. Everyone here knows how to work their land. And nope, I tell you right now, if anyone tries to enter into this subdivision, it was all the way up in the mountains, no one here is having that. Promise you that. You won't be able to get through. And it was a very beautiful feeling of knowing it's a peaceful valley, very, very peaceful. But that peace is a choice. It's not a byproduct of helplessness.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Once we begin to realize that we don't have the option of being helpless, your power returns. One of the most powerful questions I've ever been asked this entire time that I've been publicly visible, Emmie, how did you get so strong? I was like, I didn't know I had an option not to be. And I didn't come to that realization until someone asked me that. I was like, well, I've never had the option not to be. I've always had to do everything myself for everyone else. That's a luxury to be able to depend on other people. Even as a child, not being able to depend on other people, that was a norm for me. There's no tutors, none of that. No one's going to help you with homework. You better figure it out. I actually wasn't even diagnosed as ADHD or dyslexia as a child. It's only as an adult. My brain's always functioned this way.
Yeah.
It's only as an adult because I learned to mask. I was left so to my own devices and my own resources that I learned to mask my insecurities and my shortcomings. Any perceived pathology, I learned how to hide that.
What is pathology? I've heard you say that word a couple times.
It's the study of disease.
Okay.
If, say, for example, we all have narcissistic tendencies, right? You're not truly a narcissist, a clinical narcissist, unless it's a pathology. It interferes with your day-to-day function.
Okay.
Self-love is a narcissistic journey. But does it interfere with your day-to-day function? No, then that's not pathology.
Okay.
It's not a disease.
Okay, interesting. No, I mean the vernacular that you've been using this entire time is
I'm sorry.
No, but it's great because you're talking on a different level. Like you're using these words for a specific reason and structuring your sentences in a purposeful way, and there is absolutely power from words and what we're conveying, and so it's interesting because I'm novice in some of the things you're talking about, but I also feel like I know how to sail a boat on that sea at the same time.
I'm sure you do.
So it's just very interesting, and to kind of go back to your advice to humanity, a piece that I wanted to reiterate was that there is absolutely room for everyone to succeed.
Yes.
And it's important to celebrate success. I mentioned this from time to time, and I talked about it on a live stream last night, because it's an important message, and we need to focus on the successes of others, even if you might start off being envious or maybe jealous. Like how come they're able to do that? Why haven't I done that? Like I'm not happy for them to succeed. That's it. That's not a good place to be. The mind will naturally lead us there, but there's room for all of us to succeed. And when you start celebrating other people's successes, then you're welcoming that energy into your life to create that synchronicity of that type of energy that's going to help propel you to be better. And so I wanted to reiterate on that point a little bit, because it's so important to look at everybody as an equal, and everybody has a platform and a voice, and we're all kings and queens.
Yes.
You know?
It goes back to the compete and compare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting that same mentality is what has people. Oh, I make more money than you. I have a better car. My clothes are better.
Mm-hmm.
I have more followers than you. More people like we do have to get away from that mentality. It's not healthy, and it's not going in the right direction. It's not going to unite us as individuals. You know, and especially like you said, when the shit hits the fan, that's really when all that goes out the window. That matters anymore. Food, water, shelter. That's what it comes down to.
Yes, absolutely. And before we even get to that place where, you know, your connections with others are tested, I think we need to make sure we start building healthy connections with healthy people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you're not going to survive by yourself. You're just not. You're not. You have a finite amount of munitions. You have a finite amount of supplies. All your supplies. It's a finite amount. And the reality is, if society devolves to that degree, unless you have a large enough amount of people to protect your supplies, someone's going to take your supplies.
Absolutely.
You know,
that's the big thing, is they're going to come kicking the door down and take what you have.
Right.
It's going to take, you know, friends and family, a village, as you worded it, to really hoard off some of this nonsense.
And I mean, honestly, my true hope is that we can get to a space where the amount of pain we've been through as a species is enough for us to learn at this point.
Yeah.
To really come together and no longer allow for the division. I mean, enough is enough.
I would agree. You know, and going back to, you know, controlling the masses, I think a united population is powerful, and that's what they don't want to happen. And by they, you know, I'm not really speaking
corporations.
I'm not necessarily specifically speaking to the president or anything like that. The mass organizations, the media companies, all these guys profit off of all this stuff, right? Why would they want to, you know, go away from that? The fear makes the money.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And unfortunately, most people are not aware of their use of Hegelian dialectic. You create a problem, you offer a solution, and you wait for them to beg you to implement it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they've been doing. You know, one of my kids caught a cold, just regular cold. Just so happens he has asthma. And so we needed to bring him into urgent care to get a refill on his asthma medication. That was it. The doctor's like, oh my gosh, it might be COVID and this and that. COVID is a cold. Unless you're saying he has COVID and needs to be hospitalized, I don't believe he needs to be tested for COVID.
Yeah.
Because he listened to his lungs sounded fine. He's like, why are you here? We need a refill on his nebulizer. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And he's like, well, you know, we need to make sure. No, we don't. I will not change my lifestyle. He's not going to go out if he's sick. As long as he has symptoms, we want to baby his body and keep him at home. So what's going to change by that test? Nothing.
Nothing.
Just the amount of fear.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, we're on the same level there, and I could probably go off on this for 30
Yeah.
minutes, but I'm not going to.
I mean, I experienced something like that
recently.
Yeah, recently when I had a small cold, and yeah, it's interesting when you are faced with it live action and the pressure to fit in. I say fuck that.
100% fuck that.
I do not want to fit in to any of these boxes. Like we're gonna live life, and it's time right now.
It's
like,
time.
Yes.
Now is the time. It's time to get rid of the fear. Stop listening to this nonsense. Okay, I'm not sitting here. I'm tired of being told I don't believe in science. Look, you do what you need to do, and do what's best for you, right? But respect other people's doing them too. Okay, I mean that's where we're at. We don't need to keep putting people in boxes because they don't want to get a COVID test, or maybe I'm unvaccinated proudly. Okay, I say that every goddamn week, and I think you fuckers owe me an apology.
They do on their knees, on
Yes.
their knees. You know, one of the things that I notice about science, and you can absolutely look at the history of science. Given enough time, science is only capable of disproving itself. Everything that science has proven, it later disproves.
That's an interesting perspective because right now it's fact, right? Oh, it's science. It's been science tested. All these scientists agree, so it's real. But then 10 years later, well, science says it's now this. It's like when they say a cup of coffee a day is good for you, and then 10 years later, now it's bad for you.
Yeah.
It's this back and forth rigmarole. It's all about money. It's all about control. I think we all agree on that.
It is.
And we're going to get some hate mail on that, and that's fine.
Yeah, let them hate, baby.
Let them hate.
You know, whatever. You're upset. We're not. So have fun with that.
Absolutely.
But see, here's the thing, you know, going to that where it's like they have to correct your personal beliefs that are for your personal life. What is that? Is that because they don't truly believe what they believe and they need you to believe as well?
They're
Yes.
insecure.
That's what it is. That's what it comes down to. And you know what's funny is, you know, going back to like you mentioned earlier, when you get live action and you have a disagreement with somebody, I've sat across the table from people that have belittled me and think I'm an idiot because I'm not vaccinated, I don't believe in science, and then when I sit across them, they 100% agree with me. So it's just weird how that works.
Those are people who go by the energy of the room. I'm sure they still disagreed with you and they were too afraid. They didn't have the courage. Like I could disagree with you and still be able to tell you, oh, I don't agree.
Sure, just like we
And
did
it's
tonight.
fine. Yeah. You know, and I invite you to disagree with me, not argue with me, but disagree with me, so I can see life from different
Let's
perspectives.
respect each other.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have
Right.
to always agree, but there can be respect within a different opinion.
So true.
And I mean, what an epic thing that you do, and I love your like how solidified and how you've recognized yourself. It's a beautiful thing. Because too often in life, and I've been there myself, I used to be extremely insecure, where I overthink things. And I love that you're living in 3 to 5 seconds, helping people, and that you actually honored us, because you don't like to talk to people, right?
No, it's mutual.
We're honored. We are
Mutual
honored
honoring.
that you are here tonight and got to experience some time to share a conversation over a table with you. And this is something everybody should practice is respect and also having an openness to a different opinion. You know, we don't always have to agree to love each other. You know, we can love each other through disagreement. And I feel like that's all really important to kind of encapsulate this conversation. And like this conversation, could easily, I mean, obviously you do like your very long videos and stuff.
Yeah.
You're a great talker.
I was just going to
Thank
say
you.
that,
Yeah.
I mean, sitting across the table from me for the last hour and a half now, I can see why folks want you to be a public speaker. You're very
thank
well
you.
spoken, you know, very eloquent. Is that the word?
Yes, it was in the ballpark.
It was in the ballpark?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
The ballpark?
Yeah. Yeah, but no, absolutely. I can see why. I think that you have a gift for sure. You found your purpose. I'm close. I'm there. I know where I got to be. I mean, I'm going to get this thing dialed in.
You know, this conversation I had with my folks one time comes to mind. It was this thing of, I once had a realization that I'm going to live my entire life and one day I'm going to get to the end of it. And I'm going to be sitting there taking maybe my second to last breath. And I'm going to look back over the course of my life and realize I've been living my purpose this whole time without even knowing it.
What better feeling is that?
That's deep, yeah. So true, though. Yeah.
I think too many of us try and create this plan of how we're going to live our purpose without the realization that we already are. I was involved in this workshop. I was learning about 508c1As, a type of nonprofit. And it was a Christian thing. And the question was posed, why do you think you were called to this purpose? And God, I was so stressed about that question, because they were asking everyone. I didn't want to answer. I was like, oh, I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. The next day, second day of the workshop, they cornered me. We were on a Zoom call and they're like, all right, Emmie, you haven't talked.
You're up.
I was like, oh man, I'm like shaking. And then I had my aha moment. I wasn't asked to fulfill this purpose. I was intentionally designed to be the one to do it. Because of that, everything I do will always take me that one step closer to whatever the ultimate goal is. Everything I do, even failures, setbacks, all of that takes me one step closer. No matter what, that is what's going to happen. I will fill this role because I was created for this role. And again, it's not this thing of I'm better.
No.
It's that I'm just more aware, and that awareness is necessary to fulfill the role I was created to fulfill.
I think one of the big takeaways I took from this conversation, things I've learned too, is we put a lot of labels on things, whether that's diseases, diagnostics, purpose, whatever the case may be. We put labels on a lot of things. And you kind of look at life through now, being here and near and in the clear, and just living. This is the purpose, is the day-to-day. You know, I mean, it's good to have a plan, right? We always got a plan. Oh, I got to be here. We have schedules and things. But maybe we take away the labels a little bit. Because I'm a podcaster, right? That's a label. No, I'm a human being. That's what I am. So I think that's a big takeaway for me, is just removing some of the labels that I think we're all programmed.
Yeah. The unnecessary ones.
Yeah.
The ones that limit you in your function.
Wow.
Those are tremendously limiting. When people ask me, like, what am I? What's my label? I'm a stay-at-home mom. They're like, no, you're not. Yeah, I am. Stay-at-home moms do everything. Are you kidding me? They do everything. You know, we specialize in everything. We have to be our own triage. Like, are you kidding me? And that's the only label that I will allow to be adhered to me.
That's fair.
In the professional world, CEO, president, owner. I run a foundation. I run an academy. I run a church. And then I have my business. So many different things. None of that is my identity.
Right.
Those are things that I fill my day up with. But they're not my identity. They're a part of my experience here on earth. It's part of me cultivating the experiences that are necessary in order to cultivate myself, to be better able to serve my purpose. But those are not me.
Yeah.
Stay-at-home mom, that's me because my children are part of me. They are my identity existing outside of me. And so that, yes, absolutely, that's a label that I wear with honor. Every other label, I don't care. I don't care. I really don't care. You know?
Fair. Yeah. No, that's great. Great takeaway.
I mean, absolutely. And there's so many bits and pieces of this conversation that will strike home to people, you know. So let's be neutral, accept, right? Neutral and accept, and
Embrace.
Yeah, embrace, not accept. Embrace.
Accept and embrace.
Well, I think you have to first accept in order to embrace, right?
Correct.
Makes sense.
Because not everyone lives in 3 to 5 seconds.
And I'll tell you what, though, you start doing that, your life will change. I mean, I've been doing that for like 6-7 months.
Change our lives.
And yeah, it's
Truly.
tremendous. It's tremendous. We're gonna keep talking with you a little bit once we stop this here, because you're so much fun to talk to, and we're so.
It's a juicy one,
yeah,
guys.
again, we're very thankful that you are here with us tonight, and
Yeah, what an honor.
had a great conversation. Listeners, you know we're gonna keep this train moving, and we're gonna keep moving in a positive direction and being honest and upfront about what's really going on in life. You know, if you have some disagreements, that's perfect. Let's all respect each other through it, and we can make this world a better place.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was a great episode, guys. We're going to include all of Emmie's stuff down in the show notes down below so you can follow her. Get in touch with her. Any closing remarks, Emmie, before we shut it down?
This was just a beautiful experience. I want to thank both of you for helping me to heal some of my social anxiety. This was not bad at all. It was actually very enjoyable, and I had a lot of fun. This was a beautiful experience.
Yeah, this was
Thank
great.
you both.
Yeah, I can agree. This was definitely a very enlightening episode for me. You know, I sit across this table from a lot of people every week, and I'm very fortunate to do that. But not every time do I say when I step off the air I'm a little bit enlightened. So I appreciate your presence.
Thank you.
And on that beautiful bombshell, we're going to go ahead and shut this thing down, guys. We got Amy Lewis joining us next week. She's back. Y'all be good to yourselves.
You deserve it.